Are here live with Justin from Aftershoot. We had a couple technical difficulties, so that's why we're starting a little late here with our streaming stuff here. But yeah, I was saying to Justin, and just in general, I have conversations with so many photographers, about workflow and about technology, and we've just been dreaming of the day where AI would be introduced in big ways into our workflows. And the time has come. The AI has been used in a lot of different industries, but now it's in the photography industry, and it's just saving people crap tons of time, like editing, culling, like that sort of stuff just bottlenecks workflows. It makes people only want to shoot a few weddings a year because they can't handle all the back end. But over at Aftershoot, you guys are solving those problems and hearing great things from people in the photography community. So yeah, why don't we start off by you introducing yourself a little bit, and then also tell me a little bit about the genesis of Aftershoot, like how this all kind of came to be.
Yeah, awesome. So my name's Justin. I'm the co-founder here at Aftershoot, the COO at Aftershoot, as well as a full-time photographer. So I am still doing both, thanks to Aftershoot. So we've come up with this solution, right? The goal was to find a way to help photographers be more productive. And just like you said, you get limited on what you're able to do because you have backlogs, you have things you have to do.
Yep.
And I personally, as a photographer, I'm one of those people who doesn't think about that until it's too late. So I'm the guy who's like, yeah, I'll shoot 3 weddings in a weekend. I like money, right? Who doesn't like money? And then after that, I go, wow, all right, now I have 3 weddings to edit, 3 weddings to cull through, and I have to go through all these processes by hand by myself.
Yeah.
So I'm a one-man team, right? I have my second shooters and whatnot, but it's just me doing all that back end work. So it really just, there's a way to do it. So I actually found my co-founder Harshit through a Facebook post.
Okay.
Someone had, hey, there's this guy who had this idea for like AI culling and wants to do something with it. And so I DM'd him on Instagram. And we just kind of connected. We hit it off really well at first. He did a couple interviews. It was, super professional and, weird.
Yeah.
And so he asked a bunch of questions about what we needed as photographers and whatnot. He was cold calling people at that point. So he had reached out to 200 photographers. Just cold call.
Harshit, why didn't I get a call? Come on, man. No.
He was literally like, I swear it was the most random thing. Like,
that's awesome.
The fact that we even connected is beyond anything in this world, right? Like, out of all the photography, he didn't reach out to me. I found him because he reached out to somebody who made a post and said, hey, there's this guy looking for somebody to talk to. And so he was just cold calling a bunch of photographers and he got to the point where he felt like he had a data set of enough people who said like, yeah, this may be something that would interest them, right? Like AI sounds pretty cool. And he built the proof of concept and he sent it out to 50 of those people. So 50 of those people agreed to be interested and talk more. And of those 50 people, 5 replied. And those 5 basically replied with, this is the stupidest thing ever, it'll never work, right?
Really? That's not what I expected you to say.
Yeah, so it was really bad. That's why. It was like the worst. It wasn't even close to being useful at that. So I wrote like a 20-page like thesis statement paper or whatever it is back to him via email of all the things he needed to do to get this thing working for a photographer. And then the next day, that was it. We're inseparable ever since.
That's awesome.
Figuring out how to implement and make all that happen. So it's been really cool. It's really nice to see a company like this, right? We needed this tech for a long time, right? It's up and coming. We needed these things available to us. So the fact that we have it now is awesome, but what's really cool about it is that it's not just a tech company building it, right? In the photography industry, there's a lot of businesses, and you guys are different just like us. There's a lot of companies where it's tech guys doing it to make money, or it's photographers who don't know the tech side well trying to survive. Right. So to have a nice mix of like actual guys who are smart doing all this stuff, and then me as the photographer saying like, I have an idea. It builds this perfect little world, right? I'm all about performance, whereas my co-founders are all about speed and technology and all these things. So it's great because they push one direction and I push the other direction, and the only way we move forward is when we agree, right?
Yeah.
And always have to agree because users need something, tech guys need something, whatever it is. So having us on opposite ends of the spectrum makes us merge together for a really cool product. So.
Yeah. Prior to being, with Shoot With Me, we're a tech company as well. So we have our developers that know all of that stuff. And then Nathan and I are like, hey, what do you think about this or that? And like, we really do have to come to agreement, because now I understand why updates and things just can't be pushed out like that. Because we'll come up with something and be like, oh, that's an easy fix. And then they're like, well, no, this touches that and this and that and all this sort of stuff. So you got to come to that agreement, because not every great idea you have the time and the money and all that sort of stuff to implement. Really doing the research, and I'm guessing you guys gather a lot of feedback from the users as well. Like how much of a role does that play into the direction that you guys are taking with the user feedback?
That's it's really, really heavily user based, right? So I feel like I'm some sort of great visionist, right? Where I can say like, oh, this is what we need to do. This is how it should work, and those sort of things. And not all of them will come to fruition. But once users catch up to what the ideas I'm putting down, they start asking for it. We've already got a plan and it's ready to implement, right? So like, I have a million ideas of ways that we can do this differently, features we can add, things that can help us. But we don't want to push into them until our users say, hey, that's a good idea, right? So some of the things are no-brainers. It's like, we should just do this because it'll make sense.
Yep.
But some of the things we're really like, our users are what drive us. So
yeah,
if
absolutely.
we need a better solution, we'll offer the better solution, give them the better solution. Whereas if if it's just me coming up with a crazy idea, we don't really listen to me until until there's some verification that it's a good idea. So there's definitely, it's user driven, and that's again probably another one of the really proud points of our company is that our updates revolve around what our users are asking us, not what I want to do.
Yeah. And I remember us having a conversation. Let me back up 1 second. When did Aftershoot actually hit the market? Like whether it's beta or like open to the public?
We launched our first public beta back in November of 2020.
Okay.
When we really first kind of set it off, and then we, with all of our products, which I'll probably touch a little bit of base on, we always give it to everyone for free for an extended period of time.
Yep.
Because what works really well for me probably needs some adapting for somebody else. And until we get a nice, solid amount of people involved in it and giving us feedback, we don't want to start taking people's money because it's not finished.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So we launched our free beta in November of 2020.
Okay.
And we started charging June 2021. So
June 2021. So you guys are really, so you're really coming up on like a 1 year anniversary, or you came up on a 1 year anniversary.
Came up.
So the reason I ask that question is, with a new company and a tech company and user driven feedback that you're implementing and stuff like that, so if you kind of like launched to the public last year, what are some of the really big changes that you've made? Like what if somebody experienced Aftershoot, like they're in their September, October mad rush, they're stressing, they're like, let me try this product. And maybe they only tried it back then and they haven't revisited it yet. Like what have been some of the really big things you've implemented during that time that you might want to be like, hey, if you tried it back in October, wait till you see it right now, because you won't even it had plastic surgery out the wazoo and you won't even recognize it anymore. Yeah. So what are some of those really big things you've done in the past year?
That's probably the best question that anyone's ever asked.
Thank you.
I think, that's really fantastic. So starting in October of last year, we went from like a 4-person team or a 5-person, like a very concise, maybe 7 people, but like in the dev world, really only like 4 or 5 developers.
Yep.
In October, we started our big hiring and expansion, and because that was the point when we started actually being able to make money and reinvest it in the company.
Yep.
And that's what we do, right? Everything, we're just pushing to be the best and keep pushing to be better. So starting in October is when we started bringing on a lot more machine learning folk. And so the machine learning is the AI portion of things, right? It's how we interpret things. So the biggest thing you would notice if you've used it, I mean, really in the past 4 months compared to October, we've huge jumps in the past 4 months, but also, you know, from October, it's everything from blur to kiss detection to emotion detection, all of these things, we've expanded upon them. As far as the face value of the app, we've made some small changes. We've added a lot of new buttons that people have been asking for, like, you know, cycling through duplicates. They don't want to cycle through them. We've added key faces to the grid. All this stuff is very, you know, probably useless to people who haven't opened the app. But if you haven't used it since October, definitely it's a great time to just pick it back up and see how different it is. And, you know, the thing we always, like, we're a family, right? That's when you become one of our users, you're a part of our family.
We become magical unicorns as well.
Exactly. We want to keep you guys, keep you happy, keep you using it, and investing in us, right? So purchasing our software is really investing in the belief that this is the future too. Because you may jump in and it may not be 100% correct for you. It may not be the perfect fit just yet, but when you're a subscriber and you're telling me, hey, this is what I really wish it could do, I'm actually sitting down and drawing up plans for how we can actually make that work. But if you kind of just write it off because it's not perfect for you yet, then you're not really part of that team. You don't have that feedback. You don't have that, you know, that clout, so to speak, in trying to help us improve, right? And that's the thing, is we only improve because our users tell us.
And that's like a really great thing that you bring up as well, because it's, you know, sometimes we'll come into something like Aftershoot and expect it to be everything we want right from the start, you know, and just life in general. Like, oh, I have this new hire, but they're not perfect yet. It's like, well, you have to develop, you know, them, and you bringing that up is just, should give people, I feel like, the confidence of, like, you guys are motivated to listen to your users and then implement that feedback. So, like, even if it doesn't have this one little specific thing or perfect thing, like, once you, like you said, become part of the community and you're giving feedback, like, another year from now, you'll probably look back at July of 2022 and be like, oh my gosh, we've come. So, like as photographers, we all do as well. We look back on our old work and we're like, man, that's crap. Like, what was I thinking? And that's what's so cool about a company that's invested in just making it the best they possibly can for the user prior to thinking about, like, obviously we all need to be profitable at some point, but it seems like your main focus is user experience, and then knowing once you guys continue to develop that, the rest will start to come, which is awesome.
That's the main reason that we're subscription based, right? We knew from the get-go that the only way we could be the best that we can be is if we can keep reinvesting in ourselves. So a subscription based means that we can always update, right? So generally speaking, we push out updates every like 4 to 6 weeks. We're slowing down a little bit now because we're doing some bigger behind the scenes projects, so it won't be as often right now. But yeah, we're always pushing updates and trying to, again, just take that user feedback and make it realistic. Prime example, we started getting a lot of requests for like a spray can mode. So to be able to actually like click on an image and have it reject the image, or, you know, right click on an image to add an image to your selected images. And that was just a feature that, like, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 people asked for. And so we just sat down, went to the drawing table, figured out how to introduce this, and now it's here, right? So it's just that it's sometimes it's little things, sometimes it's big things, right? The spray can is not a huge thing, but it makes a huge difference. With the machine learning stuff, you know, the guys are sitting there working their butts off on machine learning to make a 2% improvement at best, right? It's like they could do thousands upon thousands of hours of work to make a small gain. So it's that constant devotion to continuing that improvement and making those little gains, because again, it's not something you need to train. Right. You can open Aftershoot up, and all of our unicorns are pre-trained for you. We'll learn from you over time, but you don't need to do any legwork to start. You just got to run your call through and start working on it.
Yeah, expand on that a little bit more for me, because I think that's a really important thing to dig into a little bit more. We are, most of us, creatures of habit, and especially when those busy times come, it's like I have, like you said, maybe you took 3 weddings in a weekend, and you're like, I've always done it this way. I know it's slower, but this new thing over here called Aftershoot, like, I don't know if I want to take the time to learn it, or I don't have the time to learn the program or stuff like that. Can you speak to that a little bit? Like somebody, so we have maybe the people that tried it a year ago, and now they just got to check out all the new fantastic feature. But what would you say to that person that just has not jumped into AI culling yet, of like, if they are super busy, how easy is it for them to just start running jobs through Aftershoot? What's that process for getting started?
Yeah, so my biggest piece of advice to everybody, and I say it at every conference, is if you're waiting for the moment that you really need it, you're not going to love it, right? So the majority of the people who end up not sticking around after their trial are people who said, I have to deliver 30 weddings this week and I need help. Right? If you're desperate for that help, it's not a huge learning curve, right? It's really just plug and play. You can drag and drop images in, set some settings up, run through, and have a curated set of images appear at the end. You'll get excess images, right? So we're never going to make creative decisions, right? So we know we'll never be 100% accurate because we don't want to have to make the decision as to which of 2 very similar images you wanted that framed slightly different. So we're going to give you one of each. We said, oh, you frame this one this way, you frame this one this way. So we'll give you one of each. So you'll always get one of everything, even if you take like 5 out of focus photos in a row, right? You just like, I give the prime example. I have a touch screen on the back of my camera. And every wedding I take about 12 pictures of my feet.
Okay. Just to be by mistake. I usually do it when I'm testing my light.
I'm always just like, oh, wait, why did the flash pop off? And it's because I rested my hand on the touchscreen, right? And so that's the thing, is that we'll always give you one of those pictures because we don't know if it's a creative decision you made. Because there has been times where I've taken pictures of, like, the bride and groom had matching shoes of their feet.
And
I want that picture, right? So we don't want to ever make a creative choice. So you'll always have some work to do within Aftershoot, whether it's rejecting images. Some people prefer to actually just like make a different category and add their favorites into it and start from there. Again, it depends on your starting point, but the point is it's very simple to use. But if you're trying to learn it when you feel like you're on a deadline, every second you spend in Aftershoot is a second you feel like you're not advancing your workflow. And so it's very easy to get frustrated or want to walk away from it. So I wouldn't start at that point, but like, if you're going to have a busy fall, now is the perfect time to pick it back and play with it, right? Because it's not a long process, right? So our newest version, like you can cull like 5,000 images in about 40 minutes, give or take, right? So it'll go through, do all of its processes. I go do other things, right?
You don't have to. You're not sitting there for 40 minutes. It's you come back and they're like, hey, ready to go.
And so it'll end up giving you, again, more images than I need, right? If I'm delivering a wedding, I'm planning on delivering somewhere around like 800 to 1,000, and I may be starting at 1,500 images. Because again, there's all those ones that we couldn't make a creative decision on. So I'm just going through and rejecting stuff. Because for me, it's very easy to look at the screen and say, click on an image and hit the X key to reject it and say, I would never edit that or deliver that to my client. That's, my good images, they're all good. But my bad images, I know them right away. So it's easier for me to go through that way. And it's a different habit than a lot of people use now, right? Like most people use the cull in method. They say, I want to edit this. So it does take a little brain rewiring to understand that. You can use the cull in method in Aftershoot, right? There is a way that you can actually say, okay, I want to edit these. I'm going to add these to a different category. There's a way to do that. But for me, again, it's really fast to just kind of go through. And honestly, sometimes if I am in a crunch, I know what Aftershoot's strengths and weaknesses are for my shooting style. I've used it enough. So there's culls that I'll run a wedding through, and sometimes I won't even review them, right? I know I have extra stuff that I have to delete, and then there's certain places in the wedding day where I may stop and say, let me just check the surrounding images because I feel like there's something else that I want.
Yeah. And when I use Aftershoot, and I had mentioned this prior, the formal time, game changer. Like my old flow, and it's the call-in flow, you're cruising through and then you get to formals and you're like, okay, I got to look at, is everybody in focus? Are they, now that used to be the slowest part of my workflow. Now it's the fastest, but you start to learn a new rhythm, new muscle memory. It's like, okay, during the toasts, I'm just going to slow down a little bit more because maybe this reaction's better than that. But then I know, during these I can go quickly, through it where, you get a little more nuanced in certain areas. But I mean, it cuts out, you shoot 8,000 images or whatever. And then, hour and a half later, then you're just looking through 2,000. And then maybe every once in a while, like, let me check the duplicates for this little section here, but you really start to learn it and it speeds things up so much faster.
Exactly.
And
you start getting comfortable with the places, because it's different for how every person shoots. So how you shoot will cull a little bit differently in Aftershoot. And so once you've gone through a couple of them and understand the places that you just want to slow down and the places that it does really good for your specific shooting style, it's a breeze, right? Like I said, I can go through and just reject everything out. And the only time I really slow down is when I have my bride and groom alone.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's at that point that I usually deliver more images than Aftershoot gives me. So I slow down and start looking at the other options. And because sometimes I like one where they're like straight faced, one where they're like really laughy, and then sometimes I just give them the middle version, right? Or if I know that I gave somebody like 12 chins in a series of images, I'm gonna go through and slow down there because we don't have a double chin detector. So instead I'm gonna do that manually, but that's where it's important to me, is for the bride and groom. So that's where I spend my time. And then dancing, again, same thing. Like if I see that it has a little warning next to it, I'm gonna just reject it because I know where it's not important, it's dancing. If I have everybody on the dance floor, I've done my job.
So you're a stat guy like I am. I love analytics. It was I wanted to be an accountant, but I decided going to school for art instead. Completely opposite, but I still love that. You were sharing some like what I personally find to be mind-blowing statistics, because you've run over 1 million images through Aftershoot, just yourself alone. Tell me a little bit, and we can geek out here and people can zone out if they want, but like, what are some of the stats that you have seen either with your processes or feedback from others or evaluating on time saved? And you had mentioned something, and I forget the details of it, of like 96% of the time Aftershoot picks the image that the photographer would pick. Am I getting that right?
So we cull about 2 million images a day. So 2 million images pass through Aftershoot every day. And that's about 80,000 changes are made amongst those 2 million. So that equates to about 96% accurate. That's, if 80,000 changes are made on those 2 million images, 96% of the images we've given are the ones that people are keeping.
That is mind-blowing.
Now I'm really going to blow your mind now. So
keep going, please.
For myself, I always do my own statistics because I'm the first layer of defense. So I can say, hey, what are the things that we need to improve upon? So a lot of times, like I said, I won't actually cull anything in Aftershoot. I'll go straight to editing, and I'll start editing on those images and swapping and adding and whatnot. And so of the last wedding I delivered, 98.6% of the images that my clients got were the ones that Aftershoot selected. So just a minor adjustment, 1.4%. I think it was like 13 out of like 1,200 images. I chose a different one. So again, it's crazy that it's that accurate. It does take, like I said, it takes time to really dial it in and make it the way you want. It learns from you as you go. So again, if you're just like, hey, I want to open the box and have a 98.6% accurate cull, probably won't get it. But should be in the low 90% category for that, right? When
Yeah.
you open the box, that's our target, is like without any user input, we should be in the 90s, you know, low 90s for accuracy. So you're just ahead. It's a head start.
Yeah. So
just one of those things. If you're the type of person who can cull a wedding in like 20 minutes, like you just fly through it, we may not be the best fit for you, and that's why we have Aftershoot editing coming. But
so okay. You teased that there. So you were saying your process, you cull it and then you go to editing. That's about to change for you as well. As much as you can share without having, you know, to have signed a non-disclosure agreement. Like, tell us a little bit about Aftershoot Edits, which is in the well, it's not even in the pipeline. Is it in beta?
It's not. So I am one of the few, and by few I mean the only lucky person in the world to be using it right now. So I have it, and it should be beta for we're doing a limited beta to roll it out, just to figure out anything that's going on with it. We did already find like 13 bugs within Lightroom itself that we had to navigate around. And they're bugs that have been there a long time. So because we've tried it on all the different, like B10, B11, we've tried all the different things. So we've done that. And once we make sure that those first 50 people are like not breaking it and it's not, you know, horrible, then sometime in August we expect to roll out, like I said, that free beta period, right? So everybody's gonna get to jump on, try it out, play with it, break it, and see how it works. Aftershoot Edits is the same as Aftershoot Culls, right? So Aftershoot Edits is local, it's on your computer, you don't need Wi-Fi once you build your profile. So you do have to upload your images, so it'll learn from you. You know, learn your editing style. And then from that point forward, it's all done locally on your computer. So you're able to actually just run it through. I just edited like 1,700 images in like 3 minutes, right? It's super fast and crazy. So it's mind-boggling that we're that close. I can't mention names, but statistically, we're about 1 to 7% better than any other products available that do any sort of auto editing. Which is really, really cool, right? So right out of the box, we just did side-by-side comparisons, making the same exact profile with the same images. And we've seen just major advances already, and we've only been at it for a couple months. So we're really excited what the future is going to hold for us there.
Just in general, like I'm excited about like the future, that this has only been, you know, around for a little bit, and it's already at the point that it's at. It's like we're gonna be delivering weddings like, but when we're on the ride home in our car, you know, eventually it's like I'm gonna send you that. I'm gonna send you that by the time I get home.
Funny story. I am the slowest editor and slowest at everything, right? Like I just, I mean, I have a full-time job at Aftershoot, so shooting 40 weddings a year is nuts in its own, like, right. So generally it takes me like 3 to 6 months to deliver a wedding. That's just my kind of like, depending on how busy I am, I let my couples know ahead of time that it's gonna take that long. They expect it. I shot a wedding on Friday. I culled it on the ride home. So I ran it, I had my second shooter with me, plugged his cards in and downloaded them at the end of the night. I had an hour and 20-minute drive home, so it culled everything. I got home, I ran it through Aftershoot Edits. I went to sleep, and I was really tired, so I slept all night. And I woke up. I started shooting at 3 p.m. on Friday. I woke up at 11 a.m. on Saturday, and I delivered their wedding to them at 3 p.m. on Saturday.
Insanity.
So within 24 hours, I shot, culled, edited, and delivered a wedding, which is like, it's insane. I did the same thing, a maternity session last week. I culled on the way home, ran it through, and I spent 20 minutes tweaking my edits and delivered. So they had their maternity session that night.
They must have been blown away. They're like, your contract said 3 to 6 months. And we're like, well, I'm kind of a big deal in the AI community, and
you know, it's hard not to like. It's hard to vision what it's gonna look like now, right? I have a backlog of images, right? I just wanted to prove that I could do how fast Aftershoot Edits could be, because I have a backlog of weddings that I gotta now get. Like they're all culled and they're just sitting waiting for editing. because
Yep.
I didn't have an AI editor before.
Yeah.
I didn't have a good AI editor before,
Yeah.
right? So now that I have a good AI editing system, I'm like, all right, this backlog is going to be burnt through, in a week or two. And then I'm going to be delivering weddings. If I put my nose to the grindstone and actually do it, I could just turn around weddings in a day.
Yeah. You have to rework your contract to say less than 3 to 6 months, because they'll be a little bit scared. They'll be like, this doesn't make sense. Did he not care about my wedding? Or
exactly. So and that's it's funny. That's the question that we have to start asking is, if we're going to start doing this, how do we want to present it to clients, right? So some people are they're adding clauses to their contracts for like extra turnaround time. So, hey, you want me to pay this money and I'll turn it around for you in a week.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And that it's a way to either make more money, or it's a way to just give your customers a better experience with such an instant age. Like, a lot of people don't want to sit and wait for their photos. They're excited to see them and excited to share them and post them and whatnot. So, there's it really depends on where you're coming from and how you want to address it.
Yeah.
For me, I'd probably end up being in that, I'll probably just charge an extra fee, right? If Aftershoot is charging me, then I will, charge that extra fee to make it so that I'm making money and Aftershoot pays for itself.
Yeah. And doing it
easy, because my clients will be happier. So if they don't have to do it, and that's okay. They can rely on 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, and you'll still deliver it faster because you're just like,
I don't need to, because I don't want, but I won't sit down and do it in a sitting, right?
Yeah.
Like correcting it took about a couple hours for me to just do my tweaks and crops and straightens and kind of fix some stuff up and clean it up, right? So I still had to do that work, and I only did it in that moment instead of taking the day off, because I was proving the point that it could be done.
Yep. And I feel like AI. And some people are distrustful of like, I don't want a self-driving car, even though statistically it's far superior, to us. And I've noticed with AI that the quality has actually gone up, because before I was in a rhythm, and so many other photographers that I talked to are in this rhythm of like, I have this backlog and I have a wedding due in 3 days that I haven't even started yet, because I was just constantly trying to catch up. And when you're trying to process a wedding and you're stressed, you're close to the deadline, you're lacking sleep, like, quality is going to suffer. But what I'm finding with Aftershoot is that the quality has actually gone up, because we're able to get everything processed sooner. And then we can just like sit on it. Like, our deadline's a 1 month turnaround. But if we're getting something done in a couple days, it's just like, okay, let's just sit on it, and then I can choose to deliver it in 2 weeks, or like, you just have everything ready to go, and then you're just sending out emails. And when you have less stress in your life because of deadlines, you're going to shoot better, you're going to sleep better, quality of life is like it really. The reason I'm so giddy about AI technology just getting better and better is it's just quality of life is going to go up. Although I probably will fill my life with other things that will waste my time.
Other things, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And one of the things you mentioned was, so you said maternity shoot, wedding. Like, I feel like there's a little bit of confusion out there of this is for wedding photographers. Can you speak to that a little bit? Like, who's your user? Like, who's really going to benefit from this?
Another fan. You are like full of good questions today.
Hey, thank you.
So Aftershoot's really designed for everybody, right? Our goal when we opened up, the door, was to really just give everybody a solution. Now, we started our focus in weddings because that's where we know culling's a drag, because you're starting with 5,000 images, 6,000 images. Right. And then we started adding features to include boudoir. We started adding features to include, newborns, and we started expanding it, and we're still always expanding. Right. So we're never done. Right. We have boudoir photographers who love us, but then there's the handful of boudoir photographers who are like, hey, you're always picking the smiling photo, but I want it when she's got the O face. All right. And that's just a different.
What's the O face? I don't know.
Yeah, like the mouth aghast was the word, right?
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then some face feature, circle, right? Like they
it's
look
nuanced.
like they're
For
it's a nuance. that we have to solve, right? So that's something that we're working on, is like, how do we do this? And another big one is like animals, right? We haven't supported like animal recognition yet, and that's been working on that. That's a hard one because animals are different looking. You know, they're not like humans. That's pretty standard. They have 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, right?
Yep.
Some have snouts, some have noses. So we're working on, you know, making that a better prospect for those photographers as well. But we have people in every genre, right? So there's people in every genre who it works great for. And then there are some people, some detractors, right, that are like, hey, you know, it doesn't work for me for my style. And they're the people that we're like, hey, well, you subscribed and we're going to make this work for you. So show us where we're not doing it right for you, and we're going to figure out how to solve that problem.
Yeah.
So like I said, it's back to that user input. Anybody can use it. Family photographers, you know, portraits, newborns, whatever you have. If you have a surplus of images, you need something that's going to help you get through them faster.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to editing works for everything.
Yeah.
Right. So editing's it's funny. Editing's easier than culling, right? At face value, culling is a lot more difficult of a problem to solve because some of the problems you solve in the culling app are literally oxymorons, right? Like they are problems that, you know, the request we get is we want less images, but we want more variety of images.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How do I give you less images but give you more at the same time? Give you more different. So these problems that we you know, it took us 6 months to come out with our latest version of the duplicate detection system. So clustering those duplicates just got so much better. But it took us 6 months to actually take that thesis statement of I want less and more at the same time and figure out how to actually provide it and deliver results for it. So you know, it's whereas editing, it's a pattern.
Yeah.
You don't realize how much of a pattern editing is until you, like, I literally had to make a video for our dev team to show them how I edit.
Yeah.
And in different scenarios. And I started with like, okay, great. So for this one, I'm going to pull my highlights down, my shadows go up, I'm going to bump my contrast a little bit. I'm going to look at their face and then adjust my exposure. Great. That was an outdoor photo. Let's go inside somewhere. And I'm like, okay, great. I'm going to pull my highlights down and my shadows up. And I'm like, let me try something different. I'm going to edit something that I edit completely different. Go to a different image. And I'm like, all right, great. I'm going to pull my highlights down and my shadows up. And I'm like, you know, it's really just a pattern. It's how much you so it was a simpler problem to solve, right? And that's why we're already so advanced at it. We have some of the best minds that exist solving problems. So they're literally, you know, I could shout them all out all day from the top of a mountain. Our machine learning guys, our dev team, we have some of the smartest, most intelligent, hardworking people in this company. And that's why we're making all these advances the way we are. Yeah.
And I you've already kind of mentioned it a little bit. Like, I think it's important for people to understand, like you said, editing is way different than culling. Like, culling is very nuanced, oftentimes very subjective. Like, this photo that I picked, somebody else might think, well, this was a better version of it. And just, I had to realize in the beginning, like, this is not just so that I can, although you do it every once in a while, this isn't just so that I can go right to editing and deliver. It's I had 8,000 to choose from, and now I have 2,000 or 1,600, and now I'm just making the fine-tuned choices. Like, it's taken out all this grunt work, and now I'm just kind of like refining it, because I actually don't even know if I'd want it to get down to 800, because then I would be worried about, well, what about the other few thousand images? Like, was there something better? And I actually might end up spending more time, like, if it got it down too far. But now it's just, it took out all of this stuff, took out all the duplicates, all that sort of stuff, saved me hours of time, and now I can just focus on the fine tuning. And I think with editing, people do that as well. Like, they still want to do some fine tuning.
Same concept. Where, you know, editing's going to be great, but the best way to point people at editing is you have to pretend like this is the least intelligent human being that has no feelings, right? So you have to literally sit that human being down. These magical unicorns, you need to sit them down and show them every example of what you do. Yeah. So if you give them stuff to learn from that you never shoot, that information is useless to them. But if you try and like have them edit something, have the unicorns edit something that you've never given them an example of, they're guessing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It'd be the same as a human. If I gave a human a catalog that looks nothing like the conditions I normally shoot in and say, edit this, they'd be like, okay, I'm going to just do what you normally do and see if it works.
Yeah.
Right. So they don't know what choices to make if they don't have it. So, you know, a lot about the editing is how much you're willing to put in, is how much you're willing to get out with it. So it is really cool. But yeah, nuance, culling is very nuanced, right?
Yeah.
There's so many small things, whereas editing, there's not a lot of small things, right? It's pretty straightforward. If I shoot this way in this lighting condition, I edit it this way.
Yep.
Right? That's why presets exist, but you have to fine tune the presets. What we're doing is just building your own fine-tuned system.
Yep.
Right? So it's specific to Justin. Justin's edits look like this. So Justin's profile is going to do this in these conditions.
Yeah.
And so it is really cool, but again, you're still going to have to tweak things. It'll never be 100% perfect because there's variations.
Yeah.
Right? There's always variations, skin tones and things that you may know a skin tone, but how can you explain to an AI that this is what a skin tone should be without talking to the AI?
Yeah.
Right? So if you have somebody with like a different complexion, like an olive skin tone, you edit that a little bit differently than you would like somebody who's got more of a tan complexion, right?
Yep.
So there's nuances, there'll be tweaks, there'll be adjustments, but it's really cool. Like it's performing better than I edit, which is
what you want, right?
Yeah, it's really cool. It's more consistent than myself, right? So I looked at images that I did sneak peeks for last year, and then I ran the catalog through, and I left my sneak peeks untouched.
Yeah.
And when I go side by side, I like the AI's edits a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because they aren't biased, right? They don't play the same bias that I did. So I'm like, wow, I edited that yellow compared to what the AI did, which is like really nice skin tone and like the dress is perfect. And I'm like, yeah, I probably should fix that. Right, so it's more consistent than myself, which is cool.
Which is actually what I would expect it to be, because time of day that we're editing, conditions that we're editing in, what's the lighting in the room, is our computer calibrated, you know, what was the white balance, like all of that sort of stuff plays in, and sometimes you just don't see it. Like I would in the past, edit a wedding and then the next day be like, oh, the skin's really green, but AI, technology, it's not dependent on our human deficiencies. Like it's just over and over and over again. So it was great chatting with you. I guess I just want to end with like what do people need to do to sign up? How do they get started with Aftershoot? When are they going to be able to play with Aftershoot edits? Kind of, what's the next step for people that are like, all right, you know what? Let me give this a try again, or let me give this a try for the first time. Or I'm already trying it and can't wait to try Aftershoot edits. So what are some of the steps for people to get started?
Cool. So first and foremost, Aftershoot edits is the big announcement that we just pushed out. So they would go to edits.aftershoot.com.
Okay.
That's to sign up to get in on the beta.
Nice.
So that's been a very popular request. When it comes to Aftershoot, if you're ready to give it another try, go ahead and sign up, aftershoot.com. We'll get you, a 30-day trial, so you're able to get back in there, try it out. Again, kind of prep yourself. If you're ready to buy, there's a really awesome code that Mike has.
Yes.
He will probably comment or do something with it so that people don't have to remember it or
Absolutely,
write it down.
Yeah. And I'll say it here right now, and then I'll post it in the comments again. But it's aftershoot.com/friends. And then you'll come to a place to log in there, and it would be Shoot With Me 15. Shoot With Me 15. So yeah, aftershoot.com/friends, and then enter in the code Shoot With Me 15. And then everybody that signs up with our code, we get a free lollipop. So Nathan and I, you guys are so generous over there with all the.
Yeah, we like to do what we do. But yeah, that code will get them 15% off.
That's awesome.
So you get it, it's pricing wise, we're $120 a year for the culling software.
Which is like, when I heard the pricing, like, I'm just like, are you kidding me? And that's the great thing about the subscription is, like, you can practice on the same wedding over and over and over again. You can tweak things, like, you can dive in as much as you want, and you're paying the $10 a month. I mean, it's a no-brainer for me.
My favorite piece of it is, like, I have shoots as photographers, especially once you finally make that transition into like more full-time and whatnot. You usually just drop all the personal stuff that you used to photograph and leave it off to the side. So I had like thousands of images that just never saw the light of day because I shot them and then I got busy. I was shooting weddings and then I just never got back to sit down and do anything with them. I just ran them through. It doesn't cost that. You can run, 10 million images through if you want. It doesn't cost anything to run an image once you have that subscription. So it literally just running through old shoots that I just haven't looked at in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, cool. Like, I'm going to run this through Aftershoot edits now. Like, I'm going to get this edited, and all this stuff that I just like kind of dropped because I never wanted to do it.
Yeah.
It's back on the table. And for the first time since I went full time and started really photographing stuff, I started taking pictures of stuff like there's like deer outside and, like things. I'm like, oh, I used to love photography because I love photography. I turned it into a job, and then I ended up stopping that kind of passion and that fun part of it where I would just shoot what I want to on the side because I was so focused on like I got to deliver client images and this and that. And now I'm like, hey, there's nothing stopping me. I don't have to cull photos. Don't have to edit photos, right? I can just run it through, let it do its thing, and then I can go pull out 10 images that I'm like, hey, I really want to share these with the world. I used to do that all the time, and now finally it's come full circle, and I get to kind of do that because I like to do it.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah, you're making me realize I actually haven't gone through I have a little point and shoot that I use for like my family. We keep it in the kitchen and all that sort of stuff, and I put a memory card in there and then just take it out. I used to take it out every few months, but I don't think I've taken the memory card out in like a year and a half. So, because now it's daunting, but
exactly. It's so much, but if you don't have to cull it, and then you won't have to edit it once you get into the beta there, you can literally just say, hey, these are all my family photos. Let's just get a little edit done, and then they're good to go. You can have those fun, passionate things again, which is like, it's mind-boggling.
That's awesome.
It's really cool. It's exciting to feel like I can go back to being happy again.
Yeah, and it's got to be so fun to be a part of this like front runner sort of technology as well. They might not implement all of your ideas, but you got some sway, which is nice.
My favorite thing, if you ask Harshit, my favorite thing to say is, "I told you so."
You're one of those guys.
I have all these really awesome ideas. Some of them I just kind of keep to myself and don't really share because I'm like, I'm not sure if those are right. But a lot of the ones where I'm like, yeah, we should do this, and then we just don't. And then a year later, we have the manpower to, so we finally do it because other people are like, hey, we wish we could do that. And I'm like, I told you so.
People wanted this. That's awesome.
They wanted it. But again, as a company, we reinvest in ourselves. So really, up until about October last year, we were a skeleton team. And still are somewhat of a skeleton team, but now we're a skeleton team of like 20 some odd employees, right? So we've grown, we've adapted, and we've expanded. But for what we're doing, there's still more. We could always have more people and more, advancements to push faster and harder. So, like I said, it's about reinvesting in ourselves for our users.
Yeah, and you guys are similar to us over here at Shoot With Me. It's not a crowded space, and there's so much potential still. Like it's really the sky's the limit. And again, it's so cool to hear that you guys are quality of user experience is your number one priority right now. Like I think that's fantastic, and reinvesting everything into that.
It always will be. We have in-app support 24/7. So if you are in the culling app and something's not working or something's going on, you can click a button and talk to one of us, right? CEO Harshit, COO me, Jason runs support as well. Like there is someone always manning it to help you guys troubleshoot anything, or if you find a bug or whatever it is, we're going to work through it with you guys. because a lot of companies don't do that, right?
Yeah.
There's so many companies that don't have support. And when it comes to culling and editing and these things, like if something's not working, you're trapped, right? You can't move forward with your workflow or any piece of it. So it should be 24 hours, right? Like Adobe should have somebody on that you can call and immediately talk to. But I don't think you can ever talk to Adobe, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is if it's not working, you're stuck.
Yeah. Yep.
You
Absolutely.
can't edit, you can't cull, you can't do your things. So that's why we believe, again, in our users and being there.
Yeah.
If you're stuck, we need to be able to fix it for you.
Yeah. And that's just a good reminder of like sending you guys an email or sending a support ticket or a live chat or stuff like that. Like you want that. Like if there's a problem or if there's a suggestion, like let us know, because like you guys want to implement it, you want to problem solve it. Because I know some people are hesitant to reach out or to give feedback or things like that, or hey, this would be a great feature, but without that, we wouldn't know where to go. Like what direction are we going?
We don't know our weak points.
Yeah.
For everybody, and that's what we need to know, right? Is where are we not performing up to your standard? Because like I said, for me, 98.6% accurate. I'm gonna take that and run with it.
Yep,
that's
absolutely.
That's more accurate than my human wife when she was culling for me, right? Like she was less accurate than the AI was as to what I was going to deliver. Yeah. So for me, that's huge. Like I'm cool with that. I'll take 98.6% all day. But if you're not getting those results and you feel like it's slower for whatever reason, or we're missing something that you wish you did better, we don't know that unless you say something. And like we're there. You can email us. Send us examples if you want. Like we're there to try and fix it. If you don't send us examples, we usually come back and say, hey, do you mind sharing with us those images we did wrong on? Because the only way we can fix it is if we can actually sit down and figure out what happened.
And even sometimes it might just come down to not using the software properly. It's like, oh well, you know, that could be
thing.
Yep.
Sometimes it's just it's a compositional thing, right? Like we found that like the focus blur detection, we have a composition detection system, and there's a lot of moving pieces, right? So sometimes we're looking and we'll mark something as blur that maybe it wasn't blur because the face was compositionally near the edge of frame. So we assume that was a background face that you actually focused on, so there's certain things that we can always learn from and improve upon. Because all we've done really, is taken people who actually give us feedback.
Yeah.
Right. So anyone who shoots this way, we take their feedback and we implement it. But if you shoot differently or do something a little different and we're not hitting the head on it, we need to know we can fix it. We have all the tools, right? Everything's there to be better.
Yeah.
We just need to know what we need to be better at.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, thank you for taking the time to tell everybody about Aftershoot. We will have you back. Because once Aftershoot edits is rolling, we're going to want to hear more. And
run off too,
yeah. So, well, thanks for the time. And to everybody listening, or most people will probably restream it later. We'll put the link in the comments for that 15% off. So that over here at Shoot With Me, we can get all of our complimentary lollipops. But thanks for what you're doing. And it's not a small undertaking. To go into this space, and we appreciate that you have your team behind it and taking the feedback and implementing it. You guys literally are just making people's lives better because they're not sitting in front of a screen having to click through every image for hours. So we appreciate you guys doing that.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the compliments. Thank you for having us, and thank you guys for what you do. Right, like that's. We may have got cut off on our technical.
That was in our technical difficulty phase,
but really, like the fact that you guys are helping photographers with their pain points as well. It's why I feel like we're such a good fit to chat and talk and
absolutely.
And all of these things, because anytime a photographer can have something better in their life is a good moment for any company to be a part of it. So thank you guys for doing what you do. I am not afraid if my second shooter passes away because he's elderly. I know I'll be able to find somebody to replace him.
Hopefully he's not listening right now. You just called him elderly, but
he's going to be 60 this year. He looks fantastic, But at some point he's going to retire, so I'm going to need to start sourcing second shooters very soon. So.
We got you covered. So.
I love it.
All right, Justin. Have a good rest of the day. Thank you.